Today, we are joined by Stephanie Jackson, the founder of Practical Sanctuary, a pioneer in the field of sensory interior design. Blending her background as an artist, healer, and neurodivergent entrepreneur, Stephanie shares how our physical space can either trigger or soothe our nervous system, especially for those who are highly sensitive or neurodivergent. She opens up about her journey on how trauma shaped her work and why reimagining our environments is essential for true emotional safety and our well-being. This is so fascinating, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for that delightful and very, very articulate introduction. I really appreciate that you have grasped what my mission is.
So, explain to our listeners why it is so important. Actually, let's start with this question,
Okay, great.
Why it's so important for our space to be a certain way and how our space can trigger it for safety or for chaos. Well, yeah.
Yes. It's important for your space to help your nervous system feel safe because you are not separate from your surroundings. We live in a culture which tends to expect that we're all going to act like brains in a jar, that we should just do what we're supposed to do and be the way we're supposed to be, regardless of what around us may be causing our nervous systems to go into fight or flight. Now, our nervous system was designed to keep us alive. Your brain is not a reality detector, it is a survival machine. And particularly for people who have gone through a lot of trauma, your brain has developed to be on the alert, to be highly, highly defensive. And when your nervous system is in that fight or flight, in that alert state, it is shutting down your ability to create memory, your ability to think, and your body's ability to physically heal. So when your environment is constantly triggering a trauma response, your body is not able to heal or process new information. And to get out of a bad situation, you have to be able to think. You have to be able to heal. It is all connected. So when you understand that, and when you start to understand how to create an environment that makes your nervous system feel safe on both a conscious and an unconscious level, you're setting yourself up to be able to heal.
Tons of questions, but I want to go into how did this all come about? Like, how did you realize that this was a thing? Yeah.
Yes. The funny thing is, this has always been obvious to me in such a way that I would get extremely confused when I'd be walking into environments where there were some really obvious things that were abrasive, just on a sensory level. Walking in and there's a fluorescent light that is like just banging down, or a noise that is just like, just some horrible noise or a smell. And I'm like, why is no one dealing with this? Like, and it took me, first of all, reading Elaine Aron's book, The Highly Sensitive Person. Did we discuss that?
No.
Yes. No, this was a book that came out in the 90s. It is called The Highly Sensitive Person. The author is Elaine Aron, Aron. You can go to her website. And that was a watershed moment for me, because I picked it up. There's a quiz at the front of the book, and I opened it up, and our code for sensitive in a lot of cultures is, oh, you're just weak. And I'm like, I'm not weak. I'm not sensitive. And I took this quiz and scored in the 99th percentile of high sensitivity. And I'm like, oh, okay. So all those things that are making it really difficult for me to function in a physical environment are often things that most people aren't even noticing.
But are our subconscious noticing then?
Absolutely, they are. Yes. The thing about your brain is that it is doing so much work to enable you to focus. If you were consciously aware of 100% of the data that your nervous system is picking up, you would be completely paralyzed. Your nervous system gets all of this sensory data, and then your brain filters out 99.9% of it. So your brain is working very hard to enable you to focus on whatever it is that you want to get done. And then when there's extra on top of it, your brain has to work harder. So even though you're not aware of what is of what your brain is doing, it's taking energy. And we need all our energy to focus on ourselves, our growth, our, just taking care of ourselves, taking care of the people around us. So when we have all of this stuff around us that's occupying our brain, it's depleting us, it's draining us.
So I want to go back to you mentioning the fluorescent light.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody who's not as sensitive as you, they don't notice it, but their brain is using energy to block it out. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay.
Yes.
So does that mean that, for example, like you really didn't feel like cleaning up the kitchen last night before you went, you didn't wash the dishes, you wake up in the morning and you start, whatever you need to do, making breakfast, your tea, your
Mm-hmm.
coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Is that already you are sucking energy away from being
Yeah.
productive because you're zoning all that stuff out?
Yes. And it's even just physical. Every time you have to do a workaround because you can't run the sink because the drain is clogged, or when you have to like make a decision, or when you're just visually editing things out, that's taking energy. It's distracting from your focus. It's pulling you down on a physical and emotional level. And I get it. So many of us just don't have the bandwidth to do the dishes at night. There's more things required of us than we have the energy for. But a lot of times we're underestimating how much it's taking to work around chaos.
So is that like it could be a vicious cycle. I don't
It
have the energy to
absolutely
do the
is.
dishes, but if I did the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'm draining all this energy the next day, and then I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the energy, and then I'm draining more
It's
energy.
a spiral downward. Yes. And my mission with a lot of my clients, and this is both as a healer and as a designer, is to reverse that negative spiral. That you can hack into that spiral at any point and make a small change. It's going to enable some positive change to happen. And you can do that at anywhere. So it might be just help create a flow path for getting the dishes done or getting the laundry done. Or it might be just changing a layout so that you're using your space more efficiently. You're able to do more of the things you want to do without having to constantly rearrange things. Anywhere you can hack into that feedback loop and start reversing that negative spiral.
So fascinating. Okay, so I know you have an amazing story as to how you got here. So I want to share a little bit of that because it's not like, oh, I am, highly sensitive, but I have now this gift that I get to share with the world. I know it's a little more than that, and I'd
A
love
little more
for you,
complicated.
and I'd love for you to share that with the audience.
Oh, thanks, Natasha. I wouldn't be doing this if I felt that I had had any other options. I love your podcast because you really talk about how trauma shapes our lives, and particularly women's lives. And there's a bit of that in how I got here. I started doing this because I have all of these things that I do. I was a fine artist for decades, like a professional fine artist with galleries and shows and the whole nine yards. And I was also a massage therapist because I got interested in holistic healing very early on because I had friends that had trauma in their backgrounds and were experiencing major health problems at an early age, that I was looking at that. And first of all, the medical establishment was abusing them, was not helping them. And so I started doing research and realized that I loved doing that kind of research. People would ask me a health problem and I would just go crazy doing the research. So I'm like, well, maybe I should do this. So I got a massage license, and that's how I paid my bills for years. And then there was a perfect storm. The 2008 recession. My daughter was born. My income disappeared because of the recession. Her father's income disappeared because of the recession. And that actually masked the fact for quite some time that her father was a narcissistic abuser, and he was using the recession as an excuse to check out, to not do anything. And it was quite a while before I realized that he was actively avoiding seeking work, and he was blaming me for his problems. And he managed to turn that around on me for years before I figured out what was happening. So I had really no choice but to learn business skills and start taking business seriously because there were no jobs. My sources of income were drying up, and I had a family to support because my ex was not accepting any work. He was actively avoiding work. So I was backed into a corner and forced to do something that I did not want to do, which was be an entrepreneur. So I'm a very reluctant entrepreneur, and I started doing it for the massage. I walked away from the art, and it was not very long before massage clients started asking me to do site-specific designs in their spaces. And I said, no, I don't do that. And they said, how about I write you a check? And I was like, okay, I will do that. And I loved it. And I realized that putting together my connection with my clients and my understanding of color, light, design, space, and emotional energy was easy for me. And I could see all of these things that were affecting people that they weren't consciously aware of. But when I would make a change and I'd show them, they'd be like, oh, wow, that is so much better. And then people would start contacting me and say, you did this thing and it started this whole chain of events. It's spiraled into this thing where I feel like I'm undergoing this healing process. And I was like, wow, I feel like I've been guided into this work. And I would never have done it if circumstances hadn't sort of driven me down that path.
It's like you were given a gift that you had to share.
I was given a gift to give to other people. And then I was forced into circumstances which gave me no other option but then to do it.
So what are some of the biggest triggers that you found that, or the biggest elements in someone's home or office that trigger our nervous system?
It is different for every person. I will say that acoustics are huge. We're living with a level of just noise pollution that is really, really difficult for most people. And it's in your home. It's even worse in businesses and public spaces, that the level of acoustic chaos is way higher than anyone needs to sustain. One of my missions is to get in on consulting for larger spaces because I feel like acoustic baffling in larger spaces, healthcare, government, education is really important. And I have helped clients deal with acoustic chaos in their homes and small businesses. It's easier than you might think, but it does require some real intention. So that's a huge one. Then just physical clutter and visual overwhelm are the other two that I would say they're just working around piles of stuff that is triggering. And I, by accident, developed a technique for working with people because I ended up having to develop a technique for working with people remotely. I started out just working, with clients in person, but then the pandemic hit and I had people messaging me saying, look, I want to work with you. And I said, well, you're in another state. And they're like, well, we'll figure it out. And it turns out that when I consult with people on Zoom, I'll have them take me on a visual tour and I'll ask a lot of questions. And then what I'll have them do is photograph their own space and upload those photos. But when you are framing a photograph of your own space, it forces you to look at things you've been editing out because there's a frame there, and you can point the camera at something you think is beautiful, and then when you get that frame, you're like, wait, what is all that? What's all that stuff on the floor? What's all that chaos? And then we just have a conversation.
Yes. Tidy up before I sent them.
even that when you're tidying up, you're forced to deal with it, and then you're forced to look at it, and then we just have a non-judgmental conversation. I'm like, tell me about that. What is that? Turns out that those piles of clutter are often things that we're avoiding, things that we have not been able to make decisions about because they're triggering too many emotions. And as a massage therapist and as a healer, I have developed ways of helping hold space for people as they're processing these triggering things. I mean, your physical things are triggering emotions. Mm-hmm. And in order to clear that clutter, you've got to process those emotions. And I just found myself by accident, just asking for the story. They would tell me, and I would guide people through like the emotional backlash of having to deal with this. And once they've been able to process that emotion, they can clear the thing. And then that trigger is it's gone. And then that like increases their energy level, their capacity. They got to win. And then I'm coaching them through how to keep going with that. So it is a process.
So what about those people who say, organized chaos, or they have just tons of stuff everywhere and they kind of have embraced it and say that they love it?
Many people are like that, and that's fine. I'm not going to try and change someone, and people come to me because they're stuck. So it is a collaboration, and people can get off that train anytime they want to. It's a process. I work with people for a finite amount of time. And if we work for that amount of time and they're like, okay, I'm good, or like, I'm going to stick with this, that's great. If someone feels like, okay, well, I've been living in this state for a long time and I'm not meeting my goals, and I'm running out of energy, or there's this thing I can't crack, I'm like, great, let's figure out the best way for me to support you. And I'll give people a list of options. Like, do you want to work on this, this, or this? Let's try this. We'll do like a small experimental thing. Like, let's just try creating this little sacred area for you right here and see how you feel. And it's experiential. If you're used to operating a certain way, you're like, it's working fine. That's your baseline. And if I can take you through an experience where you're like, wait a minute, I feel different in a way that's really a revelation for me, that I feel like I had this experience where I felt better when I did this, that's giving you another experience to maybe reach for a new baseline.
So is there something that somebody could do to like test this out? Like you'd say, clean the bathroom counter, or, do like your bedside table, or if you do like something small like that, they could feel the difference. Is there something that you would recommend?
What I recommend for all of my clients is create one small space that is just perfect for you. It could be the top of a table. It could be a corner. It could be a shelf, because you can control that amount of space. And this is particularly helpful for people who have ADHD or who have they're going through some kind of, trauma or situation that's overwhelming to them. And often they'll bring me in to help cope with like the overwhelm. And instead of just diving into the worst part, I'm like, okay, let's try creating this space off to the side for you to just be, and we'll shift things around. We'll put things there that like trigger positive emotions, create some clear space for their mind and their body to regulate and process and calm. And once I'm like, let's create this space. How is this working? How do you feel here? I keep asking that question. How do you feel? How do you feel about this? Because people will have different feelings. Check in with your own nervous system. And once they've done that, they have that experience of, wow, this place feels good and I can come back here. Then you always have a refuge. You have a sanctuary. So once you know how to do that, you know the characteristics of this place that are making you feel this way. And then you can start to just expand. You have a benchmark.
So is there an adjustment period? So people can, let's say they work with you and they clean up their entire space. Is it a little unnerving, or has it been that you have slowly worked them through the emotions and the process that it just immediately feels like it's amazing?
Oh, it's a never ending process. It's 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back. 2 steps forwards, 1.5 steps back. And that's okay. That's how life is. Yeah. I mean, I have had clients call me up after an intervention or, a consultation, and you have changed my life. I mean, it's like, oh my God, you've done more for me than anyone. And I'm like, hold on. This is a process. This will continue to change. And then, a week later, like, well, I'm so glad you warned me. Because, any healing process, it's a cycle. It is never done. What I'm doing is giving my clients tools, and I'm giving them the benefit of my experience. I'm saving people time and money, because you can figure these things out on your own, but it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of money and a lot of frustration. If we can just get on Zoom, have a little conversation, I'm like, okay, what if, let me just suggest that you try this. Why don't you try this color family? How do you feel about that? Why don't we try this layout? I can do a little layout. Let's try this. And then they make a change. You're like, wow, okay, that is great. And then I might not hear from them for 6 months. And then I'll get another message. Hey, I'm stuck again. So we can connect as much or as little as you need. I'm just here to provide a framework. This is your process. Any healing process is got to be collaborative. I don't go and fix people. That was the first thing I learned, even as a massage therapist. I can't fix a person, and I cannot help a person without their full participation. Even if they're just lying there checked out on a table, they have to be willing to get on the table and lie there and be checked out and be open to it. And it's the same with this process, that I will help as much as my client feels on board with. And then I will also respect their boundaries when they need to pause.
So when a client or somebody has been going to therapy for a while and they've kind of hit a wall, is that where you can step in and really shift things and move things into a new direction?
I think so. It's interesting that you would ask that, because I am an interior designer. My clients are the ones that started calling me a space therapist. And it was something that I just naturally ended up doing, because that's, the space in which I live. As a massage therapist, people walk in, I'm like, okay, where do you hurt? What's the story? Mm-hmm. So we get to the point really quickly. So I can't turn that off. So when people started hiring me as a designer, I was just incorporating those techniques. But what I found as a massage therapist is that a lot of things are held in your body, which talking about doesn't help. And so the massage was a way of getting to those things without having to talk about it. And the space is a continuation of that. That if people are stuck in therapy and they'll allow me into their living room, I mean, I can spot like 9 things right up front. I'm like, and I don't say, change this, change this, change this. I say, tell me about this. What's the story here? And as we go through that, and I'm like, well, would it be okay if we shifted this? Let's try this. And just creating a shift in the space creates a shift in the client. And then things start moving in their nervous system that they didn't know could move until it started moving, right?
So I've read something like this, and I think I've seen it a few times, and I can't remember what they all are, but they say like if you are, struggling with trauma, you struggle to tidy up and to be organized, and there's like a list of a few things. How does that relate to what you do?
Yeah. I am very experienced at doing as much as possible with very few resources. People who are struggling with trauma are overloaded all the time. And most interior designers are marketing to people with an excess of resources. They're marketing to wealthy people who want someone to come in and give them a glamorous home and sell them a truckload of stuff at a markup. That is not my background. That is not my clientele. My background is I was an artist who got my furniture out of dumpsters and secondhand stores. And I still almost all my furniture is secondhand. I have always lived in areas that were marginal because they're cheap. And there were a lot of fixtures and things that I didn't have the leverage to change, horrible carpet, horrible light fixtures, like can't take that out. The landlord put it there and I can't change it. So making the most out of a bad situation is just how I operate. So when people are struggling with trauma, like, first of all, I get it. I've been there. I've been working with people who have some level of trauma for probably 30 years now. And looking for the high ROI changes. It's like, let's do the easy thing first. Let's do the thing that doesn't cost anything. Let's change the layout. Let's cover up that thing that's hideous. let's clear the clutter. You can get rid of things and that doesn't cost you anything. You can change the color of one wall and it has a huge effect if you know how to do that, which I do know how to do. So I look for the easy things that don't cost much to try to just get my client a little more bandwidth. And then again, it's that feedback loop. They get a little more bandwidth just because we made a change that helped them feel better. And then they can roll that bandwidth back into making another small change and another small change.
So how does color play into our environments and our triggers and emotions?
Color is emotion. Color is an immersive experience. It is memory. It is light. It is energy level. Colors are so personal, but yet so bound up with the physics of your surroundings. They change. The best colors will change with the light. They will change with the daylight. They will change with the light on the walls. And they're so personal, which is why when I work with clients around color, I take them through an experiential process. I have seen so many people fall in love with a color on a 2-inch card and put it all over their whole room and be like, oh no. And I have done that. I have done that. So I take them through a process where you do not do that. It's a whole, we start with you picking up objects. Okay, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? This small, what does this color on an intellectual sense resonate with you? And then we pull in small paint samples and we're like, okay, now how is this going to work? And then we do swatch tests. where you put the color on a card or a peel and stick thing that's larger, and then you live with it because it's going to change with the natural light. It's going to change with the seasons. It's going to change with the ceiling height. And you pay attention to how you feel in your body when you're around this color on a larger scale. And at a certain point, something's going to go zing. You're going to feel like this buzzing and this like, your whole body is going to respond to the physical experience of that color in your space. That is when you paint the wall. That takes a while, but it is so worth it.
Yeah, I've definitely done that too. So as we're drawing towards the end of our conversation, which I could speak to you on this for hours, it's so fascinating. If someone's feeling inspired and they're like, oh, I want to change something in my space, what would you recommend that they do?
That would depend on the person. Okay. I would recommend that you look around your space, find your favorite thing in that space. It could be a mug. It could be a book. It could be a pillow or a textile. And look really hard at that thing and try to understand what it is about that thing that so draws you. Is it the form? Is it the color? Is it the weight? Is it the fanciness or the plainness, or like what emotions does this trigger? What memories does this trigger? And how can you expand those things? What else resonates with that and what does not? Can you clear some space around this and see how expansive you can make the thing that you love about this object? Is there a color in this object that you might consider having on an accent wall? Is there a style in this object that you could have like as a theme? And play with that. Really just get curious about what you respond to and see if you can make it bigger. As an artist, you're always being told, make it bigger. You like this little thing? Okay, make it 10 by 10 feet. Like try that. So make it bigger.
That's great advice. Stephanie, as my final question, is there anything that's on your heart that you want to share that I haven't asked you about?
What's on my heart for everyone is that you have what you need. You have resources, you have connections and community that is enough. You are enough and you are worthy of reaching out to those resources and those connections. You have, you are enough, you have enough. You just need to see it.
It's beautiful. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us here today. Before we go, where can people find you?
They can find me at practicalsanctuary.com. I have a book coming out this year, which is a manifesto and a how-to guide for how to transform your space to support your own genius. It is called The Eccentric Genius Habitat Intervention, Interior Design for Highly Sensitive People. So if you go to practicalsanctuary.com, get on my list. You will be the first to be notified when it comes out.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm scanning around my place and I'm going to make some changes today.
Okay, fantastic. It's such a privilege, Natasha. I really enjoy your podcast.
Thank you.